We go into render. I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup work. So I'm going to alt tap this braid, make sure this is all fitted together nicely. And if you want to, on this braid here, hit Shift D, and you can actually just ZRemesh this. Once it's all drawn out, we'll do ZRemesh same. And that'll just give you a little bit nicer geometry there, no problem. Hit Control W, make it all one polygroup if you want. D, there you go, a little bit nicer. Another thing we can do is when we go into render this thing, if we alt tap these things, you're going to see it's just a dynamic preview. You can hit Shift D, and that'll give you the actual geometry. When you bring it into KeyShot, it will take the higher res geo that's being previewed. So if you want to make it a little bit higher temporarily, or preview-wise, go into Smooth Subdiv and just crank that up. 3, 4. Same thing for this one. Just alt tap it, go to 4. Same for this one. We'll take that up to 3. You can manually just go through and kind of even these things out. Now her dress right here looks like this little addendum we made to her dress needs to be pulled in, and I'm going to alt tap her hair and just click her name. With her selected and I tap her name, that'll turn her eyeball off, and then I can just alt tap anything else and it'll disappear. So I'm kind of going through and just making sure everything's nice and pretty even and there's no weird surprises or bad geometry issues. So one thing I want to do is, instead of like on Finn where I went through and like beveled all of these things, what I'm going to do with her is hit Shift D on this one, for example. And now what I'm going to do is hit Control D, which is actually going to give me actual subdivisions here. I'm going to go into solo mode. I'm going to hit Control D again. And while I'm hitting Control D, I'm going to go into my H-Polish brush. I'm just going to kind of smooth some of these bad pinching transitions out a little bit manually. Good. Good. Hit Control D. And once it gets up to a certain point, if I want a nice soft bevel where these edges are, all I need to do is go into my crease menu, do uncrease all, and then hit Control D. And without those things creased anymore, it'll give me a nice soft transition. And then I can just use my H-Polish brush or smooth to kind of smooth out all of this stuff. So again, I'm not doing a preview anymore. I'm actually giving this geometry to kind of soften these edges in here. This gives me a little bit softer, nicer look. Same thing for the dress here. Since the dress is so big and nice, I'm actually going to go in here, and instead of actually giving it subdivision, I'm going to hit Shift D, and I'm just going to bevel this one here, bevel edge loop complete. And if it does anything weird like that, do a quick geometry modify topology delete hidden. It might have something delete hanging out there. And now I'll do a bevel edge loop complete just to soften that transition a little bit. And instead of creasing that point, I'll just bevel it, and that'll give me a little softer transition on both sides. And again, I'll go into my dynamic properties and just turn that up to 3 to make that super smooth. And any weirdo things you see, you can try H-polishing out any weird smoothing issues. And this is why I don't like dealing with sub-D meshes. It's just trying to get things to smooth correctly is sometimes a challenge that I don't feel like being challenged with at any given time. And then alt-click this one. This one I'm not going to bevel. I'm going to do the same thing I did up here. So what I'm going to do is hit Shift D and then Control D to give it actual subdivisions. And then as I hit Control D, I'm going to go in with my H-Polish brush. I'm just going to knock back these little pinched places here with my polish brush just to kind of clean them up a tad. Control D, and then I'll do a quick crease, uncrease all, and I just got my little menu here I can do it from. And then Control D, and then I can go in with my smooth brush, my H-Polish, and just kind of give it a really nice soft transition there. Okay. For her dress, and then this bottom part of her dress here is fine, I think, as is. So I'm just going to crank up this to 3 on the dynamic preview. Same thing for the arms. Crank that up to 3 or 4, whatever looks best. And then I'll bring her hair back. So I'll just turn the eyeball off, turn the eyeball on. All my subtools are back. Now the jewels I think I'm just going to leave faceted as they are, and then hopefully when it goes into KeyShot it'll render nicely. And her head, I'm just going to bump up the subdivisions one more time dynamically here. There we go. So she's ready to be rendered, I think. Everything looks nice and smooth. So, I mean, you can do that in ZBrush if we have this turned off. Yeah, so you can just do a BPR render. You could assign materials in ZBrush. Just really quickly, I'm going to go to Render, KeyShot, turn off Auto Merge, hit BPR, and that'll load up KeyShot, and we can just render in there.